Hi, and welcome to the show again. It's such a privilege to have a show where I can highlight really successful people who have risen to the top, and they've done it right, meaning they've maintained their integrity. They've kept the egos down, and they've lived their values up. And today is no exception. But first, I want to thank my sponsor today, TaylorBags.com, and my wonderful guest, Sarah Strackhouse, happens to own one. So take a look.
Proud owner.
Do you want to tell quickly? Sure, the commercial for Taylor Bags.
Well, I've been a proud owner for 4, maybe 5 years, and the quality, I just can't speak enough about it. I am really rough with my bags, and I'm a working mama, so I have computers in here, bottles, diapers, you name it, it's in here. Yeah,
Sarah.
And I'm rough with them, I'm banging them up, and it still looks just as new, and it's amazing.
Well, there's nothing better than a real person carrying the real bag, telling the real story.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about you as an anchor, and you always tell the real story. So stay tuned, because this is going to be a journalist talking to a journalist. And she has far surpassed so many barriers to get to the top of her game. Stay tuned.
Welcome to our podcast, Doing It Right. This podcast reveals authentic stories from successful leaders doing it right. It's about their journey to become a leader, their choices, motivations, and lessons. In essence, how they built successful personal brands. Your host is Valerie Sokolosky, author of 8 leadership books and nationally known as an authority on executive presence and personal branding. Let's get started. Here's Valerie.
So I want to welcome Sarah Strackhouse.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure, because I've known you for a while. You have been in the studio here with your own show. And then I went to the website recently, and there you are doing these huge, Sarah, these events. I'm just amazed and curious how you all of a sudden, it isn't all of a sudden,
right?
But tell us about Strackhouse Media. What are you doing for the UN? I saw you did something for the UN.
Yeah,
it's pretty big.
Yeah. Well, so first off, thank you for having me on. It really is an honor. You have amazing guests on. I love listening to your show, and just to be, among one of those people, I'm truly honored.
I didn't pay her to say that. I really did.
No, I mean it. And, it's been, everyone's just finding their way. So, I happen to contract with a company, with the UN. And it's...
Now, wait a minute. You happened to... this starts so that happened.
Well, so I'm a big believer in God puts people in your way that you're meant to meet that will take you to the next level, whatever that means for you, right? Whether it's professionally, in your home life, in your personal life, whatever that means. So I truly think that people are put in your way for a reason. So I met someone who brought me in the fold when I got out of news. I always say he kind of saved me from the news rat race. And then I also met someone who, saw that I was kind of out on my own and trying to figure things out, and brought me under his wing. So I truly believe that people, it's who you know and your relationship that bring you to the next level.
So true.
Yeah. So that was that most recent relationship I just talked about that contracted me to work with him at the UN. And it's been, it's been amazing. It's been a huge learning experience. The UN is obviously, there are many, many different, there's a lot of chefs in the kitchen. There's a lot of protocol. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, but it's been amazing. And it's been a humbling opportunity to be able to work with them.
What exactly are you doing with that? Describe what you do, because it's huge.
Yeah.
And let me just keep going on that for a minute. So all these years when I've done keynote speaking, I've seen all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes and all the equipment that has to come out, and the lighting and the cameras, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
So take it from there. What's that like?
Right. So for my company, for the media company, we kind of do, it's 3-pronged. So we have the digital marketing side of things, content creation. We have the media side of things. We also do AV production. And most people aren't familiar with AV, it's audio visuals. So that's the event world. So whether it's concerts or galas or conferences, conventions, people need projectors, they need LED walls, they need lighting, audio, video, stuff like that. So we put on that production, and we're show calling in the back. So that kind of brings in the news background where we're saying, okay, video go, audio go, or so we have teammates doing that. So it's putting on this big live event. And it's exciting because the client is so excited about what they're doing. They believe in it. They're passionate about it. They're speaking to their audience, their clients, their customers, their team members, whatever it is. And you're in the back helping them produce this amazing event. So that's what we do. And that's kind of what we did for an event at the UN.
My goodness. So I have to ask you if there's ever been any glitches or funny stories, because not so long ago, Sarah, I had to do a keynote and everything went wrong. Everything went wrong.
Oh, yeah.
It was broadcast out, so it was part remote and part in person.
Mm-hmm.
And they had all of the slides and all my presentation ahead of time, way ahead of time. And they confirmed that.
Right.
So I arrive, nothing works. They can't get the slides to work. The remote is sketchy. So picture this, you all. And the question is going to be, have you ever had any glitches? And so I had to just show up and forget that I had any slides. And thank God I knew the material.
Right.
Step one, always be prepared. But that awkwardness, things happen. How do you keep things from happening, or have you ever had anything glitchy?
I mean, I think, to be honest, I learned something different at every single show. I learned something, and I've been, now in the AV side of things for 2 years. People I work with have been in there for 20, 30 years. So they've seen everything. So usually someone on site knows how to fix whatever it is that's going wrong, right? Because technology is great when it's great. But sometimes there's a loose cable, there's something, that's run that's not proper, or it's just, an old cable or something like that you would never assume would be the issue, or someone happens to walk across and pull a cord and all the lights go out. You see a little bit of everything. So every single show, I learned something new. And I think that there's no way to possibly prepare for everything. Like, we were literally in a storm one time, and all of the lights, like everything went out for 10 minutes. Then the generators came back on at the hotel, but we have to rewire everything. Everything has to be redone. The projectors have to be booted up again. Everything has to be reprogrammed. All of these things have to be redone. So it's like an hour, 2 hour wait for everything to be turned back on and properly set up. So you run into all of those issues. So the answer is yes. Stuff happens all the time, and you have to roll with it, and you have to put a smile on your face. You have to talk to the client and, so hopefully figure it out. Who
is your main client? People listening, how are they clients if they're with a company?
Anyone can be a client. It can be something as big as Microsoft, Google holding a huge conference or convention. It can be a small little academy holding a little, 200-person gala who just wants projectors and pipe and drape and lighting and just to make it look pretty and fun for their team members. It can be literally anyone. So anyone who needs AV equipment, we run the gamut across the board.
So if people are listening and they're not into that kind of thing, what else does Strackhouse Media do?
So we do, there's two other sides of kind of our company. We do the media training. So basically helping people get comfortable on air or on social media. That's been a big thing that we've had a lot of people asking about is, can you help me get comfortable when I'm speaking to the camera for social media? Can you help me make sure I have the right lighting, the right background, the right, I'm Italian. I talk with my hands. My hands are always up here. So I always think, okay, I have to bring my hands down. So everyone has their little quirks, so that is a big thing that we've actually seen a lot of recently. And then the other side of things is the digital marketing side. So we do content creation, videography, photography, graphic design, any of that stuff. And then we help you post on social media. So we do social media management. I have a woman on my team who's fantastic, knows that world. I'm not even on TikTok. I'm so hesitant to learn the social media world. It's so tough, right? So I have a woman who handles all of that on our team, and she's fantastic, knows her stuff in and out. Even with all the changing algorithms, she's great. And so we do that side of things as well. So a little bit of everything.
Well, that's why you're so good.
Oh,
because
we're learning. We're always learning, always growing.
Well, I know that. Well, I want to talk to you about just you.
Oh.
I know you're a New Jersey gal.
I am Jersey girl through and
And
through.
Italian too, by the way.
Right.
We know that. Okay.
Yep.
And I know that you excelled in soccer. I mean, Sarah, so many things. And then the nutrition thing, we're going to get to all of that. But you went all the way in soccer to the semi-pro level. Tell us about that side of Sarah.
Yeah. So I played soccer all throughout growing up. My whole family did. My brother actually played professionally in Italy. My sister and I both played at D1 college schools. My brother played at D1 college school as well. And we were just a soccer family. So it was kind of thrust on us and we all loved it. You know, we got to a certain point. I played 3 years in college. In the middle of my sophomore and junior year, I played semi-pro for a team in New Jersey. I only stayed with them for a little while because then I went back to school and, you know, was kind of doing my thing. And then actually partially through my junior year, I ended up leaving for an internship in news. And I remember...
Got to the news.
That's how I caught the news bug. Yeah. But I remember thinking, is this the biggest mistake of my life? I'm giving up soccer. You know, I'm leaving my team, everything. But it ended up being one of the best decisions of my life. So it was...
That goes to one of the things you said, which is... let me find which one. Yeah, all her takeaways that she's learned through life. And you talked about hard work,
mm-hmm.
and it pays off.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you were doing hard work from the time you were probably born.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people, Sarah, think that what we do, getting in front of a camera and talking, that it's easy. And all the planning that goes ahead of it. Give them, my audience, some tips, though, if people are feeling a little like, oh, I'd really like to do a podcast. There are a lot of people that should be doing podcasts, and it's like, I don't know if I can do a podcast. Couple of tips from what you teach that, sure, you can do a podcast, and here's why.
Right. Well, the thing is, there's an audience for everyone. Everyone out there, you're not alone. So whether you want to speak about cars, whether you want to speak about cooking meat, my husband literally watches meat shows, you know, where they smoke meat and cut meat, and he'll watch it for hours, right? So there's an audience for whatever it is that you're wanting to talk about. So if you have an urge to share your story, share your message, share your craft, do it. You know, so you don't have to be worried about how you look, how you sound. There's an audience for you, whether it's 20 people, whether it's 2 million people, there's people who want to hear it. So that's my first thing. The second thing is do your homework. So I think you're a wonderful example of this. You know, you have people fill out information, you learn about them, you talk to them, you have pre-interviews. I think you do an amazing job of setting your show up for success so that you can ask the right questions and give your audience and your listeners what you believe people want to hear. And clearly, you're right. Your shows continue to grow astronomically. So I think doing your homework and making sure that you're prepared for the show, you don't just come and, you know, grab a mic and go. If you're speaking about meat, if you're speaking about smoking ribs, you're doing your homework. You're learning what kind of marbling you need and what kind of smoke and what kind of wood chips you're using. You know, I don't pretend to know a lot about smoking meat, but that kind of thing. You know, they've probably done ribs before and they're learning how to do it properly so that their viewers have that. So doing your homework and then just getting out there and doing it.
And trying it.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you do one or two, you can say, I did it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with that for sure. Okay, I want to talk to you about being a mom because of your 2 precious little boys.
Yeah.
Now, Sarah, there are a lot of women listening today who have careers like you, who travel like you,
mm-hmm.
and who have a family. Tell us about that balance. And here's why I say the word balance. Is there such a thing?
No.
Okay, good. Let's just set the table on that.
Well, everyone's like, oh, the work-life balance or the work-home balance. There is no such thing, right? So I believe you have a little bit of a pie chart, right? But on certain weeks, smaller slivers are going to come out. Bigger slivers are going to come out. Sometimes you knock it out of the park at home and the house happens to be clean. Your kids, you got to spend quality time. Your husband, you got to spend quality time. But at work, you might not have been quite as present. Sometimes you knock it out of the park at work. You close 4 deals and you're coming home, you're all amped up. You walk in and the island looks like, the most cluttered you've ever seen, right? It looks like World War III has come through the kitchen. So I think that sometimes little pieces are bigger than others. And I think that's okay. You have to be okay with that. I think the one piece that I don't think that can get smaller is your spiritual side. So whatever that is for you, for me, that's my Christianity. I think that always needs to be filled. And I think if you can't find whatever your foundation is, whatever your base is, I think filling that first and then filling everything else, I think everything else will fall into place.
When do you have that time? When do you take the time? Mm-hmm. For me, it's early in the morning because the rest of the day is going to be gone. But I agree with you.
Yeah.
So when do you have time to have that devotional time?
Right.
What you're saying.
Yeah, basically. So there's a couple ways that I do it. So in the morning, my son and I listen to a little podcast. It's only a few minutes long, but we learn about one thing each day, whether it's kindness or patience or gratitude. And it comes from a Christian standpoint and it's geared towards kids. And then you say a little prayer. It's his attention span, he's 3. So he doesn't have a ton of time to be, running around. I'm making breakfast for the family. My husband's running around helping out with things. Where mornings are busy and crazy. But I think it's a way for the whole family to at least hear something as we're walking out the door. So it's literally 2 to 3 minutes long. I think having something like that daily, that's really nice. I also have a really nice Bible study group that us girls just came together. Kind of we're following a certain program, and it's really nice. We get together. Sometimes we drink wine. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes, we just hang out and have a nice charcuterie. It's just really good fellowship. So I think that's a really nice side of things as well, to try to get it into your everyday life. Obviously there's, the other options like Young Life and church and, organized religion. But I think some of those little things help you just stay connected throughout the day.
Absolutely. Well, in staying connected, you just said a couple of things here that you gave me as your top takeaways, and one of them is surround yourself with people who lift you up.
Yes. I think that's been one of the biggest things that I've learned is leaning on those people who have helped you throughout your career or your personal life. I'm really blessed. I married a wonderful man who, when I'm traveling, he's home with the kids. Sometimes my mom or a family member will come in, and I have great family members who fly into Dallas because we don't have family really local. Uh-huh. They'll fly into Dallas and help out. But, I can also go away for 28, 48, 72 hours and know that my kid, my husband's got the kid handled. So I think he believes in my mission. He believes in me. And, it's not like we have a perfect marriage. No one does. But I think...
Say you do. Go ahead.
I have a perfect marriage. There we go. Yeah, of course.
You'll get into another field.
Right.
Counseling.
Yeah. But I think that, having that support system and, especially... I think other women that you work with. I've surrounded myself with other entrepreneurs, other women who believe in you and say, hey, have you thought about this? This worked for me. This didn't work for me. What about this? I think that's having that system, especially when you're feeling like you're an imposter in your field. Someone saying, hey, I've been there. Keep pushing. You're good. Having just those words mean the world to you.
I'm so glad you said that because there are many more days when I'll speak for myself on this, when I'm wondering, am I doing the right thing? And
you're doing it right. You are.
Thank you. Well, then I'll keep going.
Yes, you are.
Yeah. So you also said it's important to work smart no matter what you're doing.
Yes.
So what does smart look like?
So I think for me, I've learned it's on the sales side because I hate sales. People are like, oh, well, you were a reporter. You can talk to people. I'm like, well, I can get someone to open up to me about their deepest, darkest secret, but asking for money or asking for, this or that, that's a little harder for me. So I think learning what sales tactics have worked for me, going to the networking events, not picking up the phone call or not sending out a million emails, spending hours doing that, but going to one event and speaking to people and connecting and making those relationships, I think that is working smarter rather than spending 8 hours doing all of these cold leads or doing all of this, whatever it is, right? So I think finding what truly works for you is working smart, not hard. And I'm not pretending like I have it figured out. You know, I'm still learning and trying to figure out what works best for me and my team. But I think that working smart gives you more time to do the things you want to do, whether that's spend time with your family, whether that's grow your business, whether that's go on vacation, you know, whatever it is. I think that if you figure out how to work smart for your world, you'll be in a better place.
Well, I agree with you. And for those of you who are more introverted than she is, and I am, you can learn to do that. You can learn to network at events. It really isn't that difficult. There's just a couple of tips that I just shared recently with someone, so I'll share it with my audience. And number one is when you first get to an event, stop a minute at the door and kind of look around. Get a sense of the environment. For sure, look at where the food is, because that's the easiest right place to go to.
That's where I always meander.
Right? But take a minute and pause rather than just walking in and going, oh, dear. And when you're looking around, see a group of people that are having a good time, not the serious ones that are in a group just kind of like this, but find a group of people that are smiling, right? Those are probably the people that will, in fact, invite you into the conversation. And then the third tip is wait until you hear something that you can tag onto, that you have an opinion about, that will bring yourself into the conversation. It isn't that hard. The first win you get will help you go to the next networking event. So I like that very much.
That's great advice. I love that. That'll help me personally, too.
Oh, yeah. I can't believe that. You can walk in anywhere.
Oh.
Okay. I want to talk about now the health side of women. And you are an ISSA certified personal trainer and nutritionist.
Yes.
And you've been with the International Sports Sciences Association since 2016. And you offer private soccer training lessons. Okay, that's three things. Where do you want to start?
Ooh, I don't know. I guess, once I stopped playing soccer, I realized I missed the athletic side of my life. And so I decided to join a company called Camp Gladiator. And I think many are probably very familiar with it. And I decided to join as a trainer. So I got certified to be a personal trainer, and I did group fitness. I still sub for them sometimes.
What is it?
So it's an outdoor fitness boot camp, and you bring your own weights, you bring your own mat, but it's great because it's a really big community. They take anyone from a marathon runner to someone who literally just got off the couch for the first time and decided they want to work out, because you go at your own pace, right? The way that the workouts are tailored is that it makes sure wherever you are, they meet you. So you're not going to be paired with a marathon runner and expect to be sprinting with them at the same time. You go at your own pace. That's how the workouts are designed. That's how you're taught to design the workouts. So I did that for a while and really ended up loving it. And as I started to get older, I was always one of those girls in high school and college. I could, eat 10,000 calories and I stayed relatively thin. But
wow.
I was also, working out a ton and running and stuff. But, my 20s hit, my late 20s hit, my early 30s hit, and stuff starts to change, right? So I started to want to learn about more of the nutritional side of things, and especially having babies and how your hormones change. I'm 2 kids now, and I actually, just because I have those certifications doesn't mean I practice it. So I actually have my own person in my corner. She's a postnatal and prenatal physical therapist and nutritionist. I don't know if she's technically a therapist, but she's a exercise, pre and postnatal exercise fitness instructor, as well as a nutritionist for pre and postnatal specifically. So very niche, but it's very needed. It's very, while you're going through pregnancy, you want to make sure you're fueling your body in the right way. But you're still, if you want that scoop of ice cream, have that scoop of ice cream, you know?
Oh, I like that.
So she's great about that. If you want that glass of wine, you know, you're postpartum and you're like, oh my gosh, I can finally have, you know, a glass of wine again. It kind of tells you how to learn in your own life. Still celebrate with your family and enjoy and take in the things that you want, but helps you with that and helps you rebuild your core, your pelvic floor. I mean, women go through so much when they're having a baby, and it's just, you know, you learn all pure too. Absolutely. And it's, you know, the weekly coaching sessions that she has with me. So just because I have those certifications doesn't mean I don't need someone too. So everyone needs someone in their corner. I truly believe it.
Well, that's a good takeaway too.
Yeah.
You know, Sarah, so I'm admitting this. I never worked out. Until, now I'm really getting bold. About 2 years ago.
Everyone's starting somewhere.
And that's the point I want to make. I wouldn't miss it now for the world.
Mm-hmm.
I feel so much better. And I'm not 39, but I'm not going to tell you how old I am.
But you look 39.
Well, it doesn't work out.
Right.
But I really, honestly, I didn't realize, I really didn't. When people say, oh, I feel so much better, it was like, oh, who's got time to work out? So I just have to tag on to that because I think you're right. You said something else, Sarah, I want to ask about, and that is if you don't see an option you like, make one your own.
Mm-hmm.
Make it yourself.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I've run into that so many times. I mean, in college, you know, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I wanted to be an artist, I thought. So I started learning about graphic design. That took me into the news world because I was a graphic designer for a news station, my first job. And I figured out I wanted to work in news. That was my foot in the door. You know, you kind of figure out a way. You know, once I left news, I didn't want to leave it completely, but I wanted something different from the news world. Well, you know, where you shoot your studio, this is Real News Communications Network, Real News PR. And I met Jeff Crilly, obviously the owner of Real News. And this was the next step. You know, the next step for me, I found an avenue where I could still have that news bug in me, but a better lifestyle, you know? And then once I had my baby, I wanted to be home with him, but I didn't want to leave the professional world. I figured out a way to make it work for me and my family. So there's always a way for you to make it work. And I know that I'm very, very blessed. My husband does well financially, and I'm in a position that, God forbid, I couldn't make any income, something happened to our family, you know, we wouldn't go into homelessness. We wouldn't go into, you know, foreclosure or anything like that. We would be able to survive and do well. And I know that many people don't have that option, but I think that if you can turn whatever you want to do into monetary options. I think that if you find a side hustle, you're working full time, you find a side hustle, there's always a market for that side hustle, especially if you find your niche. So figuring out what you want to do and pulling it into your life. You don't need to turn your life around this one job. You don't need to turn your life around this one avenue. Figure out what works for you and make it work. I don't know if I explained that very well.
Well, I think the essence is that there are so many entrepreneurial stories, right, Sarah, where people have done that, and that side hustle. I mean, I'm thinking of the cupcake lady and the makeup lady and the other stories, but I think that's a great thing to tell people. Yeah, oh, your side hustle is okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's been amazing talking to you, and we've talked about, gosh, soup to nuts, your career and your health focus. Where can people reach you now? Yeah, and for what? So, because we've talked about your soccer and your training there and your business. So synthesize it for us.
All right. So the easiest place to go is strackhousemedia.com. Go to my website. You can always shoot me an email as well at sarahstrackhouse@gmail.com. That's kind of the most generic one I can kind of throw out there. The one thing I would say is Strackhouse is spelt with an R, not Stackhouse. That is something I run into all the time. You'd be surprised at how many people leave out the R.
Right.
So strackhousemedia.com or sarahstrackhouse@gmail.com, and Sarah's with an H. But otherwise, reach out to me. I'm happy to chat whatever it is that you want to chat.
Well, and you know what? I think it would be awesome if you audience, any of you, just picked up the phone and said, hey, I just saw you on the show, Valerie's, and I want to talk to you about. That's the realness of you.
Yes. Well, whatever it is that, you're looking.
Counseling sessions, though?
No, none of that.
Let's not get into that.
No, it's not really my forte.
Sarah, it's been a pleasure.
It's been an honor. Thank you so much for having me on.
Don't you think? It just glows.
That's the post-baby sweats.
Well, I want you to wait a minute because I always end with a Valerieism.
Okay.
And today it's what you do and how you do it reveals everything about who you are. Let me say it again because I have a story on it. What you do and how you do it reveals everything about who you are. I was dealing with a man a few years ago who came for coaching, and he was the president of a division of a big company. And every time in those days, they would fly into the office, and that's no Zoom at that time. And so he did that, and every time he'd go back to New York, I would say, so how are you doing by phone? What are you doing? And he would give me all these wonderful answers. Well, one day he wasn't there, and his EA answered the phone. And I said, I'll say it's Bob. I said to the EA, well, how's Bob doing with the new teaming kind of construction or process that he was telling me he was going to put in place? And she said, what? And I repeated it. And she said, well, I don't know what you're talking about. So as it turned out, unfortunately, that is the only time I have been totally fooled by someone. So it happens. The man just kept doing whatever he was doing before, and nothing that went through coaching worked. He stayed who he was and didn't try to be the best of who he could be. So again, the Valerieism is watch what people do and how they do it, because it tells a lot about who they are.
I have goosebumps.
Goosebumps.
Wow.
I am going to have another cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Cheers to you and to all my wonderful audience. Come back next time for another wonderful guest. That's it for today.
Thanks for listening. To receive Valerie's voice, free monthly leadership tips, and to learn more about her leadership programs and coaching, visit her website, valerieandcompany.com. Next week, we'll be here again to inspire, engage, and equip you with teachable points of view from successful leaders who have been doing it right. Until then, lead authentically.